All right, so here in this video, we are going to take a look at the next set of topics for our test review over our linear equations. So everything slope, everything y equals mx plus b, and our standard form. And we're going to begin this video with talking about x and y intercepts. Remember, the x and the y intercept is all about where it lands on the graph or a coordinate plane. So when I look at 4x minus y equals 4, if I want to know the x-intercept, what I really want to know is where does y equal 0? So I'm just going to plug that in. If I put 0 in for y, I would have 4x minus 0 equals 4. And then I would just solve. So minus 0, that just means 4x equals 4. Divide both sides by 4. And I could say that my x-intercept is at 1. And if I wanted that coordinate, that would be 1. Remember, we put 0 in for y, so my coordinate is 1, 0. Now, if I want the y-intercept, what I really want to know is where does x equal 0? So I'm going to use the same equation, but instead of putting 0 in for y, I'm going to put it exactly where the x is. So that was 4x, or 4 times x. So that'd be 4 times 0 minus y equals 4. Well, 4 times 0, that's just 0. So really what I have is negative y equals 4. If I want to move the negative in front of the y, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. Know that y equals, well, 4 divided by negative 1 is negative 4. So I'm going to go ahead and write that as a coordinate. Remember, when I put in 0 for my x, my y value was negative 4. So for number 15 here, go ahead and pause the video, try both of those, and come back and check it out. All right, so for number 15, it looks like our x-intercept is where x equals 2. So our coordinate would be 2, 0. And for our y-intercept, it looks like y would equal negative 3. Therefore, our coordinate would be 0, negative 3. So up next, vertical and horizontal lines. Vertical and horizontal lines. Remember, that's back to Hoy and Vux. So if I have y equals negative 2, that really just says y is always negative 2. So I'm going to go to where my y is negative 2, right here. And I'm going to say, well, it's always negative 2. So that is a Hoy. That is a horizontal line. That is a horizontal line with a slope of 0. So I would graph that as a flat horizontal line. If I look at number 17, now this is the other way. This says x is always, that's what equals means, is always 5. Now if we use Vux, we know that means vertical, right? Up and down. So I'm going to go where the x is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a grid of 5, so my 5 is here. And then I'm just going to make a vertical line that shows that my x is always 5. And yes, you do need arrows on both sides, guys. All right, up next, we now need to look at writing those linear equations. This was maybe one of the most complicated parts because there's so many options. So we've been given a point and slope or 2 points. So we've been given some information. We're going to use the formulas we already know. So in number 18, I've been given a point and I've been given a slope. That is ideal for point slope. So remember, that is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Here's my coordinate that I'm going to plug in. There's my m. So y minus the y1, well, the y value is negative 7, equals my m, which is 3, times x minus my x value. Now let's go ahead and put this together. So minus the negatives, we know that's just addition, right? So really what I have here is y plus 7 equals 3, and then in parentheses x, again, minus the negative, that is plus 4. First up, we need to distribute. So we now have y plus 7 equals 3x plus 12. I'm still solving for y, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 7 from both sides, and I'm going to find that my equation here is y equals 3x plus 5. So that's writing a linear equation. Writing the linear equations, we want to get them all back to y equals mx plus b. That's our goal, and we've done that. So using what we just did, using the formula y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, I want you to look at number 19. So you're going to pause the video and try it out. Remember, here's your point. Here's your m. All right, so looking here, our final y equals mx plus b down here at the bottom says y equals negative 5/4 or 5 over 4x plus 1. Now, hopefully that fraction didn't get you too bad. Negative 5/4 times negative 8. Remember when we multiply fractions, we put our whole numbers over 1. We multiply straight across, so negative 5 times negative 8, positive 40. And 4 times 1 is 4. So 40 divided by 4 equals 10. And then we just plug that in. We move the 9 over, and there is your final answer. Y equals mx plus b. Y equals, there's the mx plus b. Perfect. So number 20 and 21 are very similar, but what's changed here is they didn't give us a point and they didn't give us the slope. They gave us 2 points. So if they give us 2 points, the first thing you have to do is find the slope. So in number 20, I would say, okay, so that's my change in y over change in x. So m equals change in y. So negative 2. Now, minus negative 9, that's going to be plus, right? Minus a negative plus. And then my x's. 4 minus negative 3, that's addition. Minus a negative plus a positive, so that's 3. So my fraction here, negative 2 plus 9 is 7. 4 plus 3 is 7. So 7 over 7, I have a slope of 1. Now, I'm going to use point slope. And remember, when we use point slope at this point, it doesn't matter which one. You get to pick whichever coordinate you like. I'm just going to use, I'm going to use the first one because I can. So y minus my y, so that'd be negative 9, equals m1 times x minus the negative 3. Now, I don't like all these minus and negatives, so I'm just going to write y plus 9 equals 1 times x plus 3. Now, when I distribute that 1, well, 1 times anything just stays itself. So really what I have here is y plus 9 equals x plus 3. Still solving for y, so we're going to move the 9, and we're going to have y equals x 3, subtract 9 is subtract 6. So my final answer in y equals mx plus b is y equals x minus 6. So I want you to pause the video, I want you to try number 21, and then come back. All right, so first up we find the slope. The slope ends up being negative 3 over 2. Then I'm going to plug that back into point slope. Again, it does not matter which point I use. I can use the first one or the second one. I just used the first one because it was listed first. I plug that in, and when I finalize that into slope-intercept form, I get y equals negative 3/2 x plus 4. All right, so a quick look at parallel and perpendicular lines for our last topic. Describe the slopes of parallel lines. Well, remember, parallel lines have the same. Slopes are always the same, the exact same. Where perpendicular, if you remember, had the opposite reciprocal. So we had to flip it over. So let's say I had negative 2/3, it would be 3 over 2. The opposite makes it positive, and then I would flip my fraction. So looking here, 24. Which line is parallel to the line 5x minus 2y equals 18? Well, if it's about having the same slope, I need to find the slope here, which means I need to change that into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to do that. I would have, first I'd just subtract the 5x from both sides. So I would have negative 2y equals negative 5x plus 18. I would divide by negative 2 to everyone. So I would have y equals, well, negative 5 over 2 is positive 5/2 x minus 9. 5/2. So I need to find an equation where I have the exact same slope, the same m. And if I look here, that's C. Now, 25. Which line is perpendicular to the line y equals negative 3x plus 2? Perpendicular needs opposite reciprocals. So if my slope is negative 3 in the given equation, I'm looking for a slope of, well, that would be like 3 over 1, right? Negative, I want the positive version, and I'd flip it into 1/3. So try A, B, C, and D and see which one has a slope of positive 1/3. All right, there for number 25. When I go ahead and look at D here, I move the x over by subtracting. I'm then going to move the -3 away from the y by dividing everyone by -3. And look there, negative x over -3. Remember, that's -1x. Well, negative divided by negative makes a positive, and 1 over 3 just stays 1 over 3. So using what you've just used for 24 and 25, pause the video, try 26, and try 27. All right, so for number 26, parallel lines, we take our equation. I want to keep that slope. That slope was -4. I use point slope, plug in the slope, plug in the point, and rearrange until I get to y equals mx plus b, which is going to be y equals -4x minus 9. 27, I want perpendicular. So the first thing I had to do was take this equation. The first thing I did is I moved it over here and I figured out what the slope was. So the slope in y equals mx plus b was 3/5. Perpendicular means I want the opposite. So I want a negative and I'm going to flip it reciprocal. So I actually wanted to use the slope m equals -5 over 3. Plug that into point slope. Solve or rearrange until I get to slope intercept, which is going to be y equals -5/3 x plus 1. So there is your work for just as your review. Now we're ready to take that test. So make sure you read through these, make sure you have everything written down, and you're ready to go.